Welcome everyone. This is wait no, I have to say it's Baka proof. Sure.
No, you don't have to.
Say whatever
This is
you want.
Baka proof with a
It's an anime roundup.
this is Baka proof with an mid-season anime roundup. Where
There you go.
We speak about the anime of this season. So I guess the first one we're gonna talk about is I guess one that we've all watched. It's just called Grimgar for short. Quickly, it's another one of those anime where kids are stuck in a fantasy game world, MMO world, but they don't know it's a game. I think that's kind of cool that they don't know it's a game.
Is it a game? Did they say that?
I
Yet?
don't
No,
think
no,
we
no.
know it's a game.
But like they give the viewer an idea that it is a game. You know, they're gaining experience, they're picking classes. If
They
you ever
started
played
out
any
wearing
MMO,
real life clothes.
yeah, and they're just like, okay, well, we have to join a guild and all that stuff. But the twist is they don't know it's a game. Well, we don't know it's a game either, but they don't have any like awareness to the fact that it's very similar to a game. And they actually in the first episode they actually said the word game, and
Yeah, they were
none
like,
of the
"What's a
characters
game?"
knew what game meant.
It's like, it's like their brain knew the word, but it's like, that's
Right.
a word from modern time. From a review perspective, I think it's okay. I watch it every week. I wouldn't say that it's great.
Yeah, it's not really a show that's worthy of binging, as far as I can tell.
I would like it. I don't know.
That being said,
easily
I will say the production value is awesome, and I feel like
Animation's pretty good.
If it wanted to, it could make some really amazing stuff.
The watercolor art style it's really nice. I like that a
It's
lot.
nice.
So the next one is something Same-san has not watched, but we're still going to talk about it a little bit because Sensei and I have watched it. Its English name is Myriad Color Phantom World. Sensei, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, so what's it? The same production team that made
Amagi Brilliant Park.
Amagi Brilliant Park, yeah. And so I love that one. So for some reason, maybe I shouldn't have expected this, but I expected the same kind of humor, and it kind of does have the same kind of humor. But something feels wrong as far as like there's the lack of a definite goal or purpose.
But I never watched Amagi Brilliant Park, and I've heard really good things, and it's on my to watch list. So when I went into this, I thought this was like gonna be probably the best anime of the season. The thing with this one is, if you are like people like me who like crappy anime just because the characters are amazing, I love the characters in this show. They are all fun except the main character. He's just just a good.
Do you
looking
think
guy.
this anime has Best Girl 2016?
Maybe, probably.
We don't objectify women here.
No, we're just ranking them anyway.
We'll just rank them. Okay.
Yeah, well, I don't.
fantastic.
Everyone agrees. It's gonna say like if you've seen like the cover of this, the girl in the yellow sweater with the giant boobs, they probably say she's the best girl. But I actually like the other one. I can't remember any of their names.
The one that eats things?
Yeah, though she's so funny. I love her. I mean, I guess we'll go over the actual anime. It's about. I think the premise is kind of cool. It's like they kind of like unlock the human mind to see these things called phantoms, which they also use. They kind of say they're like ghosts, like some weird stuff's happening. They you blame it on a phantom, and now humans can see it because of some kind of like epidemic thing, medical thing that happened a while ago. And for now, it's kind of episodic. Different phantoms show up and they clean them up. Different things happen. You learn a little bit about each character, but really nothing has happened in the anime.
It's pretty good.
It's very self-aware. Like from last season, we kept seeing the same old thing. The main character is a guy who falls on top of the girl, his hands on her breast, whatever. And then if you watch the first episode of this, and coming from the last season, you're like, it's gonna happen again because the guy starts falling and his hand is in front of him. But at that moment, they catch themselves. Oh, we can't do this. This is just like every other anime. And then he even says it like, they break the fourth wall, and then.
Okay, so you like that hyper awareness?
I do. I love that kind of humor. It's like they know how dumb anime is. You sometimes you wonder like, does Japan know like all this anime is the same?
They do. Yeah, certainly.
Well, obviously,
I mean,
they do.
if you want the Same-san cultural discussion, I mean, they
Obviously they do, but sometimes you gotta ask yourself when you watched Rikudai Cavalry and Asterisk. Let's talk about Dagashi Kashi. So let me just try my best to explain what this anime is, because I really don't know what's going on. But in the first couple episodes, what you learn is the main character wants to be a manga artist, and he draws, and his dad owns a dagashi candy store. It's like an old-fashioned Japanese candy store, from what I gather. I don't actually know. But then this girl, you've probably seen the purple-haired girl in the maid outfit, kind of. She comes in and she's like, I'm from the higher ups of the candy company, and I'm looking for main character's dad. And main character's dad's like, oh, you're here. And then they're like, yes, join our empire because you're actually a legend. You know, she's kind of like, she's like overemphasizing everything. And then he's like, oh, but I'm gonna retire soon, and my son doesn't want to take over my candy shop. He just wants to draw manga. And so the thing that should be like a huge detail, but it's kind of not. It's like the character he draws in his manga looks exactly like the character that just came through the door and like is now not harassing him, but she's like, do all this. I'm gonna challenge all your candy knowledge and blah blah blah. So she's pressuring him to try to take over the candy shop, and he's just, it's every single episode after that, it's just like she talks about the lore of certain candies, and they have like challenges, and I'm telling you, I have no idea what's happening, but it's very entertaining to watch. And she's a great character.
She's a great character. Actually, she reminds me of well, not completely, but just as far as in her forwardness, like it reminds me of Haruhi.
Haruhi, kind of. The other thing is, oh yeah, so she is very direct like Haruhi, but in so the humor also comes from the fact that she seems very lewd in what she says,
but she's not.
But she's not trying to be.
Yeah, but
there's like an episode where she's like, okay, let's have a blind taste test competition where we're gonna put these like phallic shaped candies in our mouths, and we're gonna have to figure it out. And then she's like, licking in and putting it in her mouth, and she's like, oh, it's very hard and stiff, and I know this, I recognize this, and, and then like the crumbs are falling on her chest, and she's like, oh, can you clean that up for me? She's not very aware, and it's really good. I really like it. Yeah, the only problem I have with the anime, other than not understanding what's going on, is the main the way the art is done. No one's eyes are normal, first of all. They're all like dots, or the main girl has like swirl eyes. I love that though, just like Aho-kun. But I hate that when they look straight, they're cross-eyed.
I did not even notice that.
It just bothers me that when they're looking, they're like, hey, Kokonatsu-kun, and he turns around, and he's like cross-eyed, and he's like, yeah, what's up? Like nothing's wrong. Yeah, but that's that. Like, there's not really much to discuss. You should watch it if you're watching seasonal. I think even when it's over, you should watch it. That's what I think. All right.
Next anime.
On to the next one. We got
Dimension W.
Yeah, Dimension W.
I think that the show is pretty horridly overrated, unfortunately. And my primary reason for thinking that is the plot is so like convoluted and like messed up. I'm not a fan personally.
I think the plot is there. There's no big villain just yet. You kind of just get like a feel for the environment mostly.
Right.
And I really like the girl. It is overrated for sure. The main character is not even like
he's
just like I hate
not that
coils,
interesting.
and
it's weird.
I don't want to use it.
He's like a really angry, like Spike Spiegel-esque character.
I wouldn't even say this one is worth keeping up with. Maybe it's worth watching after it's over, but as of now, it's not really that special.
I want to say one thing about Dimension W. I will say that in the opening, the dude's top rock
sucks.
Is really bad.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't want to watch it.
So yeah, Sensei and I have I just call it breakdance background, and it's cool they made him do that. If you guys have you guys ever watched Death Parade?
Some of it.
Okay, well the intro is all you really need for that one. It's good too.
Yeah.
But everyone knows that they made all the characters, like the whole show is very mellow and dark, but in the intro everyone's like dancing, it's doing a musical number. I think it's really cool. On to the next one. This one I don't think Same-san has watched, but I don't know if Sensei has kept up with it. But it's Aokana something like rhythm.
Oh yeah. The flying one.
Yeah,
I know that one.
Aokana,
I haven't watched
something of the 4 rhythms. You want to talk about the premise? What it's about?
So what I know is that there's a new girl. There's flying shoes. They can fly. from island to island, and there's a sport called flying circus, and there's a main character who's apparently like good at stuff, but he doesn't want to do anything. That's pretty much all I can really say about it. And as far as how I feel about it, I'm pretty neutral. I mean, it's the first episode got me really excited just because of the general premise of it. The premise is awesome, like the actual concept of it and the way it's presented, but it doesn't feel like it's going to really get into anything like emotionally charged the way I wanted to for me to care enough.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Okay, and I have been watching it in detail, so I do know a little more. The main character is a girl. It's prefaced by saying like she's always thought about flying, because in the beginning of the anime she sings a song about, you know, spreading her wings and flying, and she lived on a ship or something, and she watches like the birds fly. But she comes to this island, she moves to an island, and then apparently flying is normal. They just recently found the technology, or released technology of flying in public, and kids fly to school basically. And she's like, wow, flying, this is amazing. And then she picks up flying. And then this is the part that confused me. Like, she tried out this sport for, it was a flying circus. It's basically like a race. You know,
Yeah.
so this, I'm not gonna go into the game itself, but
The rules are so weird.
it's not even that weird. You either go fast or you attack your enemy. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, but I don't know if that really constitutes a sport.
So I thought the sport was gonna be like not important. It's just gonna be, oh yeah, she has like hidden
That's a really good
potential.
point.
But
Yeah.
it turns into the entire thing. Everyone's all about the sport now, and
It's a sport anime
it's not
now.
a sport anime though.
It's a sport.
Well, I guess you could consider it one, because it's like, you
Feels
know,
like a
the
sport
girl who
anime.
sucks is finding her hidden potential. She's getting better. Everyone's getting better, and they have their reasons to. I don't know. Not worth watching. Not worth watching when it's done. So now we get into the anime we actually can say is pretty good. This one is called Kona Suba, and it's just, it has a long name, but don't worry about it. Just know it's Kona Suba. We'll have Sami-san tell us what it's about.
Alright, so in Kona Suba, they have found a new thing that happens when somebody dies. And essentially, it starts off with the main character who thinks he got hit by a truck, but actually, he got hit by like a cart, didn't he?
It was like a tractor, I think.
Yeah, it was like a farm tractor.
He
And
didn't even get hit.
Yeah, he didn't get
yeah,
hit.
he died of shock while
Yeah.
So it's pretty funny. And so he meets a goddess who says, yeah, so we don't do that whole like reincarnation or send you to heaven thing anymore. We basically send you to this fantasy world, and you can bring any one thing you want, but watch out, because like it's a pretty dangerous world. And the main character says, okay, I choose you to bring. And one of her goddess like leadership friends says, yeah, sounds good. So guy gets teleported to this fantasy world with the goddess, who is very upset. And it essentially becomes like another MMO, kind of like, you know, get skills, level up.
Yeah, I think you're missing a couple of pretty important details. The fact
like,
that he's like a NEET. Yeah, and he died the one time he went out to get a game. And the reason he chose the goddess was because she was patronizing him after he had died in such a embarrassing fashion.
I watch it and I like think to myself, wow, this is probably really bad, but for some reason it's really good. Like it's enjoyable.
Good the whole way through.
It's good. It's good. It's very, very entertaining, I would say.
I think especially since during this season we do have something like Grimgar, to have those two of the same season kind of compare the two. One that's like super serious about life and like living and death and all that, and then one that just doesn't care at all.
Right.
At all. It's really cool to have those two at the same season.
Yeah, and I like the characters. Like the characters they each have like a gimmick,
Right.
And it's great. So like the one girl they meet like is like actually really strong, but she can only cast her magic once.
Bakuretsu Maho.
Bakuretsu Maho, or Bakuretsu is explosion.
Yeah, and she's a
And,
chuny to top it off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like she literally like casts this beautiful spell that like, you know, does a lot of damage, and then she just like pretty much dies.
Yeah, and they even, I'm pretty sure they did a nod to the original like Chunibyo anime where she was wearing the eye patch and then they made her take it off. The thing I like about it is it's absolutely dumb and retarded, but the humor is so coherent. Like Nichijou, just a bunch of random stuff happens and it's hilarious. But here, the random stuff happens and it kind of makes sense.
Okay, because it never deviates from what's happening.
Right. It's not like
consistent
unexpected because you're in a fantasy world, so a lot of unexpected things are gonna happen, like attack of the cabbages or something. But
right, a very seamless transition. I
right,
agree.
it just seems like right. It's just like, oh, we're being attacked by cabbages. That's an MMO thing that happens sometimes. And then they fight it off, and they're like
all the time.
Yeah, and then in the aftermath, they also it just seems so coherent. They're like, oh yeah, we sold all this stuff and got a bunch of gold, and now we can get skills. And you're like, oh wow, they still are paying attention to the details, that it's still a game, and they're still being funny somehow. So it's like I said, it feels very coherent.
That's true. They even go as far to talk about how when you get new skills, they actually show the DNA in your body changing.
Yeah, and then they even there's even a progression of skills, and it just when you come from watching sword art where just the guy just randomly gets the power to dual wield swords out of nowhere. He's like, oh yeah, I just happen to have this.
Sword art is a huge misstep in anime history, in my opinion.
Right, but it's still the go-to
MMO
standard. It is the standard for unfortunately.
So this guy,
the first season was great, but after that,
there's no randomness to him getting more powerful or more rich or whatever. But Kirito over here is a master detective with the secret skills to save the world. It's
just a god for no reason, a god master pimp.
Right, and Kona Suba just feels so real. You even bring a god into this game world, and she can't even do godly things. And it's not like she's limited either. She's just never had the ability to do anything to start with. Yeah, Kona Suba, something you should watch during the season, and probably when it's over. It'll probably be really good.
Yep, I'd recommend it, definitely.
All right, and now our number one for the season. That's new.
Our number one show.
Number one is for the season in general. Is Erased. Woo!
The plot is the main character will sometimes just go back in time a couple of seconds. So that's kind of the first thing they present. He's driving a moped. He's a delivery guy, and he's driving a moped, and suddenly he just rewinds in time 5 seconds. But it's not a surprise to him. You can tell that he's used to this happening, and so he goes, okay, what changed? What's changing this time? He repeats the same 5 seconds, and he has to look for something different. And so he notices that a truck driver is asleep at the wheel, and so he's able, because he went back in time to try to stop the truck. He manages to stop it. But so that's not really the plot. That's just the way they set the stage for the whole time thing. So something basically happens at the end of episode 1, a very serious thing. The show is actually very, very, very serious. And what happens is a certain crime is committed, and as far as all the facts present, the main character is the guy that did it, essentially. And so what happens is he thinks that this crime, the person who committed the crime for real, actually may be responsible for another crime that happened in his hometown when he was in middle school. So what happens when he discovers of this crime is he just goes back in time way longer than 5 seconds. He goes all the way back to middle school, and so he's living in his middle school self, which sounds gimmicky, but the way they execute is actually pretty great. And so
it's amazing.
And he knows everything he knew from when in the future.
So he knows everything that he has all of his experiences in the future, and so it's people start to think that he's acting a little weird, but at the same time he's still living as his self. And so he essentially goes back and, as a middle schooler, tries to prevent that first crime in an attempt to prevent the crime that happens way down the line. And from a plot perspective, it's unbelievable. Probably one of the best plot premises in a couple seasons. And so when you're watching Erased, it's kind of oh, this is interesting. Oh, he's gonna go back and try to solve it. It's gonna be like Sherlock Holmes, and it's just not that at all. This show, you just care about everyone, immediately. the guy goes back to being a kid, and you're just kind of like, okay, like whatever. But then like you meet his friends as a kid, and they all have very distinct like characterizations, and like they don't all feel like archetypes. Like nobody feels like an archetype. Like there isn't there isn't like a nerd friend. There isn't like a
kind of
like a sporty friend. I mean, there kind of is.
They
but
got
like
the fat friend.
Yeah, they got the fat friend, but they're not too on the nose about it, and so it's just like it really makes you think, and a show something that this show does really well is whenever the protagonist like gets some kind of reward, like you really feel that reward as a viewer, and like that's really really important in storytelling.
The must watch number one.
Must watch every week. Do whatever you have to. It is.
If you're a guy or a girl who just watches anime when it's finished, make an exception.
Highlight for people who are learning Japanese. Erased is actually really really unique because a lot of the characters are from Hokkaido, and so they speak in Hokkaido Ben, or the Hokkaido dialect. They use a bunch of slang. They use different sentence endings. Like you'll hear people say like we'll end sentences with "be" or "zo" a lot.
Well, if you're a fan of Steins Gate, this would be the much better version, and that's saying a lot because Steins Gate is really good. But
Steins Gate is good.
It's a lot faster. It's the weight is, I would say it's about the same. But the thing about Steins Gate was every other episode or every 3 episodes was heavy, and this is every single episode.
Yeah, it just like it doesn't stop, and like it's almost like the show holds your emotions hostage because you're like, oh man, finally something like really great is gonna happen, and then it's like boom, here's a wrench.